and Mazbat College, and respected research person and distinguished participants who join in different parts of the country and also from abroad. Because though it was a national webinar, but I have seen in the registration list that many participants has already joined from Nigeria, Philippines, Iraq, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and many countries. So I welcome you on the behalf of the organizing committee. Welcome you to this virtual platform. This is a very vital topic on the new education policy 2020. Before we have already discussed on National Education Policy 2020 on the topic research and innovation in higher education, in vocational education. But today we will discuss about the school education and NEP 2020. So welcome you again to this virtual platform. And today, now we want to start our program with a song will perform by Pubali Phukon, student of Sonari College. I request Pubali Phukon to start. Please, over to you.
নমস্কাৰ মই হিমাই মহাবিদ্যালয়ৰ এগৰাকী ছাত্ৰী ষষ্ঠ ষান্মাসিকৰ ছাত্ৰী প্ৰথমে মই সকলো শিক্ষাগুৰুলৈ মোক মোৰ আন্তৰিক শুভেচ্ছা আৰু শ্ৰদ্ধা জ্ঞাপন কৰিছোঁ এই অনুষ্ঠানটিৰ আৰম্ভণিত মই এটি ডক্টৰ ভূপেন হাজৰিকাৰ এটি গীতেৰে মই অনুষ্ঠানটি আৰম্ভ কৰিব লৈছোঁ মানুহে মানুহৰ বাবে যদিহে অকণে ভাবে অকণি সহানুভূতিৰে ভাবিব কোনে নোকোৱা সমনীয়া মানুহে মানুহৰ বাবে মানুহে মানুহক বেচিব খুজি মানুহে মানুহক কিনিব খুজি পুৰণি ইতিহাস দোহাৰিলে ভুল জানো নহ'ব কোৱা সমনীয়া মানুহে মানুহৰ বাবে দুৰ্বল মানুহে যদি জীৱনৰ কোবাল নদী পাৰ হৈ তোমাৰে হাতত তুমি হেৰুৱাবানো কি মানুহ যদিহে নহয় মানুহ দানৱ কাহানিও নহয় মানুহ যদি দানৱ কাহানি বা হয় মানুহ লাজ পাব কোনে নোকোৱা সমনীয়া মানুহে মানুহৰ বাবে যদিহে অকণে ভাবে অকণি সহানুভূতিৰে ভাবিব কোনে নোকোৱা সমনীয়া মানুহে মানুহৰ বাবে ধন্যবাদ
Thank you so much, Pubali, for your nice song. It is a beautiful beginning of this webinar. Thank you once again for your participation. Now I request, as per agenda, Dr. Pronita Kolita to welcome Dr. Bimal Chandra Gogoi sir, Principal Sonari College, for his welcome speech. Please, over to you, Pronita.
Thank you, Zonta Kolta sir. Namaskar. Very good evening to all. I am Dr. Pronita Kolta, coordinator of this national webinar and Assistant Professor, Department of Education, Sonari College. I heartily welcome you all to this webinar session. Now I would like to introduce our respected Principal of Sonari College, Dr. Bimal Chandra Gogoi sir, and request sir to kindly deliver his welcome address and formally inaugurate this webinar. Over to you, Dr. Bimal Gogoi sir. Sir, please unmute your microphone.
Hello.
Yes, audible.
Good evening, everybody. Honorable resource person of this webinar, Dr. Nita Kolita Borwat, Professor, Department of Education, Dibrugarh University. Respected joint coordinators of this webinar, Jayanta Kolita and Dr. Ponita Kolita. Respected principal of Mazbat College, honorable professors, teachers, and participants from Assam and other states of India and outside India. When the world is attacked by COVID-19 pandemic, we are compelled to take help of online platforms for academic discussions. Today's webinar on school education and new education policy 2020 will enlighten the national education system to be implemented in India and its consequences. The great philosopher René Descartes said that the essence of mind is thinking, which separated human being from other animals. Education is the outcome of deep thinking done by human being. And this new education policy of India is an outcome of human thinking. Now, I want to welcome honorable resource person of this webinar. I want to welcome honorable principal of Mazbat College and other colleges who are viewing this webinar. I welcome professors, teachers, participants, and viewers from different colleges and universities of Assam and other states of India and outside India. I hope today's webinar will be successful with your active participation. I don't want to talk more. With these few words, I declare the webinar to be inaugurated. Thank you. Over to Pranita.
Thank you, Dr. Bimal Chandra Gogoi, sir. Thank you for your welcome address and formally inaugurated this webinar. Jayanta Kolita, sir, can I proceed for further? Okay,
Yes,
and
thank you
now
for your nice. Thank you, sir, for your nice speech and welcome speech that you have inaugurated the session formally. Now, I request, without further delay, I request Dr. Pranita Kolita to welcome our today's resource person, Dr. Nita Kolita Borwa ma'am. Formally, please welcome today's resource person. Pranita, over to you.
Thank you, Jayanta Kolita, sir. A very good evening to all, respected dignitaries and all participants. I am extremely pleased to introduce our today's honorable resource person, Professor Dr. Nita Kolita Borwa Madam. Madam is presently working as professor in the Department of Education, Dibrugarh University, and carrying out the responsibility of the chairperson at the Center for Studies in Behavioral Sciences, Dibrugarh University. Her areas of interest are developmental psychology, mental health issues in education, adolescent psychology, adolescent education program, women education and empowerment, education and development, etc. She has presented research papers in various regional, national, and international seminars and has over 29 publications in reputed national and international journals and edited books. She has also acted as a resource person in various seminars, webinars, and faculty development programs conducted by different universities and colleges. Dr. Nita Kolita Burra Madam has actively involved in administrative activities of Dibrugarh University as a member of various academic and administrative committee. Madam has already guided more than 30 students of MPhil and 7 research scholars to successfully pursue their PhD degree. I can proudly say I am also one of those fortunate research scholars for pursuing PhD under her guidance. Thanks a lot, Madam, for your continuous love, support, and guidance. Besides being a PhD examiner of education and psychology of several universities, Madam is also a life member of various educational and research organizations of the country, like All India Association of Educational Research, NACE, NEHA, CTEF, Assam, etc. So this is a very few introduction of Madam. She is a very eminent academician, social scientist. Now I request Madam to proceed for her presentation and enlighten us. Welcome, Madam. Now this platform is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranita. Respected Principal of Sonari College, Dr. Bimal Chandra Gogoi, Principal of Mazbat College, Dr. Pradeep Kumar Sharma, my 2 ex-students who are the coordinator and joint coordinator of today's program, Dr. Pranita Kolita and Mr. Jayanta Kolita, respectively, other members of the organizing committee, and everyone who is present here today to participate in this webinar, which has been organized at a very short notice. So this particular topic, I also feel, has been neglected by most webinars, and therefore I'm very encouraged to see a very heterogeneous group today, where I believe people from all fields, including officers and teachers, school teachers also, are participating in this particular webinar. And I have prepared a small presentation accordingly, keeping in mind the fact that more than the policy itself, the implementation aspects of this policy will be the challenges ahead of us in the future. And as responsible citizens who are in responsible positions, we have a role to play in the roadmap and that is planned out to achieve the education as planned in the NEP 2020 by 2030. Today, as you know, in the morning, the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, has inaugurated the School Education Conclave, which is a part of the Shiksha Parv that is going on since the 8th of this month and will continue till the 25th. The initial address was on the transformational reforms in higher education, but today the area chosen was school education, and it is a very nice coincidence that we are discussing school education today. He has mentioned a few important points, such as the fact that this school education needs to be implemented by the year 2022, and it should reach its full completion by 2025. So the government has certain plans, and now therefore we need to understand what we can do as teachers, as guardians, as administrators in the school education system to ensure the efficacy of the implementation process. So without taking too much of your time, I would like to share my presentation with you. I hope it is clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have titled it as National Education Policy 2020, the implementation of this policy, and I have particularly chosen about the restructuring the school curriculum and the pedagogical aspect. Stop working. So the Prime Minister of India, as you all know, on 29th of last month, in the midst of the pandemic, inaugurated the National Education Policy. That was in July 29th, July. And this policy basically directs the promotions and innovations in education amongst the people of India. In the history of independent India, we have had three documents. The first one was in 1968, which is known as the Indian Education Commission, or commonly known as the Kothari Commission, which was released by the then Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. And the second one was by the Prime Minister of that time, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, which was a very forward-looking preparation for the 21st century. This second policy was launched in 86, but modified in 1992. But from the 34 years that have lapsed since 1986 till 2020, we have seen that although 1986 policy was hailed as a very innovative and a very forward-looking policy, yet that policy, in hindsight now, seems to have lacked awareness of certain disruptive technologies. For example, I would like to give the example of internet. Internet was launched all over the world in 1995, and we have seen, especially during the pandemic period, how internet and online education has become our mainstay in the education process. But this was never accounted for at that time. Keeping that in mind, if you look at this particular policy, which is a 66-page document only, you will notice that it also keeps scope. It keeps in mind the fact that there could be disruptive technology in the future too, and how we need to prepare our students so that they can be prepared to face the challenges of the 21st century. So if you look at this policy, you will find that it is a very ambitious policy in its goals. And if it is implemented properly, it can catalyze not only India's development goals by educating the future citizens of this nation, but it can also help in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. The 17 goals that have been identified by the United Nations. And if you go through this document, especially school and higher education, you will find that the sustainable development goals have been kept in mind throughout. The rationale for this particular policy, apart from the fact that over 3 decades have passed since we last had a policy, and the fact that in this new millennium, to face the challenges of the new millennium, we needed a change in our education system, because all of us know that the existing education system is not preparing students for the 21st century. And therefore, the Global Education Development Agenda, as reflected in the goal number 4, which is the Sustainable Development Goal 4, is quality education for all. Keeping in mind that particular goal, this particular policy has been framed, and it seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. So such a lofty goal will require the entire education system to be reconfigured to support and foster learning. so that not only the critical targets and goals of the sustainable development goals are met, but also so that our national development also can take place at the same time. The vision of this document is basically an education system that contributes to an equitable and vibrant knowledge society. So the main point to keep in mind here is the knowledge society. It aims in creating a knowledge society by providing high quality education to all and by preparing lifelong learners. Secondly, it also believes in developing in our students a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental rights, duties, and the constitutional values enshrined in our Indian Constitution, bonding with one's country, and also an acute conscious awareness of one's role and responsibilities in a changing world. Moreover, keeping in mind the practical aspect, it wants to instill skills, values, and dispositions that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development and living, and global well-being, thereby reflecting a truly global citizen. So the key principles, if you keep in mind this, before I go into the school education part, the key principles of this document as a whole, whether in school education or in higher education, is respect for diversity and local context. That is the number one thing, that it has in all the components of the document. If you read it, one thing is clear, that it wants to include this respect for diversity and the local context in all curriculum at all levels and in the pedagogy also. Secondly, it wants equity and inclusion as the cornerstone of all educational decisions, keeping in mind the wide diversities and the fact that our gross enrollment ratio is very low even now. We have lots of out of school students, and due to this pandemic and the economic after effects of this pandemic, the situation is going to get only worse regarding school enrollment, out of school children. Hence, equity and inclusion has to be the cornerstone in all the educational decisions. Thirdly, community participation and encouragement for philanthropic, private and community participation is another principle. Fourth is use of technology. So now during the pandemic, we have realized how important technology is to be used as a tool in teaching and learning. But this particular document also envisages the use of technology in removing language barriers for Divyang students and also in educational planning and management. Moreover, it wants to emphasize more on conceptual understanding in student learners rather than rote learning and learning for examinations. So today, the Prime Minister used the word that the mark sheet has become a prestige sheet, more like a status sheet. But actually, the mark sheet should not be like that. It should be a learning sheet. It is something which records your learning. But at the present time, we know the mark sheets are like status or prestige sheets, which is what he has mentioned. And also he used another thing by saying that instead of teaching our students learning to read, they should read for learning. So these are some small things that are enshrined in this document and which need to be understood. The next point, the principle is unique capabilities. It recognizes the fact that every student is a unique individual, and the education system has to recognize this and identify the unique capabilities of each and every student so as to foster and nurture their capabilities for their wholesome, holistic development. Next point is critical thinking and creativity. You can add communication also to this, because these are the three important critical skills of the 21st century skills. We call them critical thinking, creativity, communication, so as to encourage logical decision making and innovation. And last but not the least, continuous review. He believed this, Dr. Kasturi Rangan and his team believe that the educational system has to be reviewed continuously based on sustained research and regular assessments by educational experts. And the changes need to be incorporated more frequently and should not wait for 34 years to bring about changes in a system. So the salient features of this particular document is recognizing, identifying, and fostering the unique capabilities of each student by sensitizing teachers and parents to promote each student's holistic development. So here we talk about holistic development, not merely academic achievement. Secondly, accord the highest priority to achieving foundation literacy and numeracy by all students up to by grade 3, that is by age 7. That means foundational literacy, which is now, as per this document, planned to be started from 2.5, 3 years on for a 5-year period. The main priority is foundational literacy and numeracy, FLN, by grade 3. The third important thing to remember is the flexibility. The very important principle of this policy is that there is flexibility in the teaching methods, there is flexibility in the courses provided for student learners, especially at the secondary and higher education level, so that they can choose their own learning trajectories and programs and thereby choose their own paths in life according to their talents and interests. Now, we don't, this particular document recommends that there should not be these silos in education where you have watertight compartments that science cannot study arts, arts cannot study commerce, or vice versa. So here, for the first time, the flexibility of courses is allowed to a learner so that he or she can follow their own learning trajectories and thereby choose their own paths in life according to their interests and talents. There is no hard separation between arts and sciences, between vocational and academic streams, so as to eliminate harmful hierarchies, which I said, silos, between different areas of learning. And last but not the least, this particular document is interesting because it encourages multidisciplinary and holistic education across the sciences, social sciences, and commerces so as to ensure unity and integrity of the entire education system. So if you look at the school education part in this diagram, you will find that the most significant recommendations are on high quality early childhood care and education, because for the first time, this particular document proposes a 15-year compulsory education period in place of the 8-year RTE program we have right now. So earlier the right to education is from 6 to 14, but now this particular plan proposes that it will be from 3 years to class 12. Not only class 8. So it is a 15-year period of compulsory and compulsory education for all. Focus on foundational literacy and numeracy. This I have already said that by grade 3, FLN will be the most important thing that will be emphasized. The curriculum framework will be 5 years of foundational education, plus 3 years of preparatory education, plus 3 years of high school education, and 4 years of secondary education. And this is the structure that is very new, and in place of the 10 plus 2 plus 3 structure that the Kothari's Education Commission had given us and which we are following even today, for the first time after so many years, we have a new structure which is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. All students will be allowed to take board exams on up to 2 occasions during a year. So board examinations are usually very stressful for the students of class 10 and 12. So to reduce the anxiety and stress of students, one important suggestion is that the board exams can be taken up to 2 occasions. So, and in any particular given year, and there are other proposals also which I will deal in detail. And last but not the least, a regulatory body will be formed at the national level for all recognized school boards of India. So creation of a Rashtriya Shiksha Ayog or National Education Commission as an apex advisory body is there, and the RSA will be chaired by the Minister of Education and will consist of 30 members. And as you know, the Ministry of Human Resource Development has already been redesignated as the Ministry of Education. Now, the key highlights regarding school education, because I will be focusing only on school education. So the key highlights is the plan to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio in school education by 2030. With the reforms from preschool to secondary level from the present highest GER of 56% in grades 11 and 12. So that means we have to bring back 2 crore children into the mainstream. And now I'm afraid to think about the pandemic and what will the numbers be post-pandemic. However, already we know 20 million children are already out of this school system. So we need to bring them back immediately. And other highlights include replacing the 10 plus 2 plus 3 with the 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 system for the school education. Early childhood care and education, improving foundational literacy and numeracy, promotion of multilingualism, examination reforms, equitable and inclusive education, teacher recruitment, vocational education, bagless days, etc. So basically, the main focus is this, which I have already mentioned. And important point out here I would like to reiterate is the curriculum is to be designed to integrate 21st century skills of mathematical thinking and scientific temper into all the courses or subjects that are taught at the different levels. So integrated education is the main focus. And education of gifted children, education of the Divyang children, these are also given a lot of focus, and the roadmap is also shown about how to deal with these children. The concept of a gender inclusion fund has been developed for the first time in this document, and the reduction in the curriculum to core concepts is a proposal which is very interesting and very challenging, and also to include vocational courses or vocational integration from class 6 onwards. These are the most important school education highlights. So therefore, in the restructured school curriculum and pedagogy, like I said, the foundational stage will be of 5 years and will consist of play and activity-based learning and the aforementioned curriculum and pedagogy of ECCE, Early Childhood Care and Education. The next stage, that is classes 3, 4, 5 or the preparatory stage, will transition gradually with the introduction of some light textbooks in order to lay a solid groundwork across subjects, including reading, writing, speaking, physical education, art, languages, science, and mathematics. The next stage, the middle stage, that is classes 6, 7, 8, will see the introduction of subject teachers for learning and discussion of the more abstract concepts in each subject, so that students will be ready for at this stage across the sciences, mathematics, arts, social sciences, and humanities. And the last stage, which is the secondary school or the high school stage, here it is mentioned as high school, we commonly call it the secondary stage, will comprise of 4 years. And interestingly, this will be 4 years of multidisciplinary study, but with greater depth, critical thinking, attention to life expectations, and greater flexibility and student choice. So this is the proposed restructuring of the school structure. What are its implications? For the educators and school promoters, that means at the foundational stage, the focus will be on good behavior, courtesy, ethics, personal and public hygiene, cleanliness, teamwork, and cooperation only. As you move on to the preparatory stage, the transformation should be smooth from play-based learning to interactive classroom learning at the second stage. At the third stage, introduce subject teachers at the middle stage and build on the subject-oriented pedagogical and curricular style, which we commonly follow right now also at the middle stage. And at the high school stage, we have to permit the students multidisciplinary study and permit them to choose the subjects of their choice rather than stream-wise. And what are the implications for the students? For the students, the implications are that learning will be fun, engaging, interactive, and high school students will have more flexibility to choose subjects. The second important structure, which I said just now, this is what I have already mentioned, so let me not repeat it. But this is the structure change from the old academic structure to the new academic structure. So earlier we had 2 years of preschool, nursery, and KG, which was not included in our compulsory education. It is not a part of the formal school system. So this is outside the formal school system, and the formal school started only from class 1 up to 10, and the next 2 years were considered as the higher secondary stage, 11, 12. However, the new proposal is that we will have a foundational stage followed by a preparatory stage, then the middle stage, and then the secondary stage. And accordingly, the implications are that we now have to, educators and school promoters, we will now have to reconfigure curricular and pedagogical structure according to the developmental needs and interests of learners at the different stages of their development. So now comes the context of the learner's interest and the concept of developmental psychology. What is their level of development and what is the most important need at that particular age, and what are the changes that we need to make in the curriculum and pedagogical methods in order to ensure maximum learning. And for students, definitely the learning will focus more on their interests and needs, and therefore they will be more interested to learn. Another very important suggestion of this particular policy, especially at the secondary level, or which is the higher education level, is that although at all 4 stages, they have suggested that you, if possible, one should consider moving towards a semester system. However, at the high school level, definitely that is a priority. So the whole idea is that for the educators and school promoters, therefore, we have to have shorter modules or courses which can be completed in shorter span of time, say 3 months or 6 months. Already, in our annual system also, we have divided the syllabus into half yearly up to half yearly a part and the second part for the annual system. So we have to now think of maybe completing one semester as a complete course instead of one whole course. So these are some things we have to think and work on. So we have to make smaller modules, shorter modules and courses, and include more of variety such as arts and sports that are taught on alternate days to fill up the school hours, the school timetable. For parents, this will ensure that their wards, their children have exposure to more subjects with greater flexibility and more frequent formative assessments for learning. And for students, it will be an enjoyable learning experience with a wider range of subjects, including across the arts, science, humanities, languages, sports, and vocational subjects. Another important suggestion is competency-based learning and education. So the present education system that is being carried out, it has been observed that it is not based on a learning outcome or learning competency of the students. Hence, it has become very mechanical and it does not give scope to the students' holistic development, that is the effective development or the psychomotor development. So to close the gap between the current state of learning outcomes and what is truly needed, classroom transactions may shift in certain subjects and appropriate towards competency-based learning and education. And the assessment tools, including assessment as, of, and for learning, must also therefore be aligned with the learning outcomes, capabilities, and dispositions as specified for each subject of a given class. Moreover, in all the stages, experiential learning must be adopted as the standard pedagogy as per this document within each subject, and so as to explore the relations among different subjects. So therefore, it has suggested that apart from competency-based or learning outcome-based courses, we must also ensure the pedagogy of experiential learning, where students will learn by actively becoming involved in a topic that is being taught in the course and by doing it. So learning by doing or learning by as a project or as a survey, so that by actually experiencing the learning, they can learn. So what are its implications for educators? Therefore, it means that we have to adopt experiential learning, including arts integrated and sports integrated education and storytelling based pedagogy. So these are some new things that teachers have to now learn. And for the students, what does it mean? That for the parents, the assessment tools will be aligned with the learning outcomes, capabilities, and dispositions as specified for each subject. So it becomes easier for the parents also to understand the assessment process. The next point is curricular integration of essential subjects and skills. So when we are talking about integration, I have already mentioned that this particular document, especially at the school level, stresses on integration. in education. Integration across subjects, integration between the school and the society, integration of parents, teachers, and the administration. So integration at all levels, but for the school students, it basically means that every student will take a 1 year fun year long course during grades 6 and 8 that will give a survey and hands-on experience of a sampling of important vocational craft as decided by the states and local communities and as mapped by local skilling needs. This is something that is carried on in UK also, that students get a chance to do internship or projects with some local industries so that they learn about the local skilling needs in their area and they can learn accordingly. Moreover, as you all know, the coding is also going to be made compulsory from classes 6 onwards because it is now understood by all that coding is going to be very important in the future when we will have artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. So from class 6 onwards, the courses will be more hands-on experience based, and for the educators and school promoters, therefore, it will be their task to provide a 1 year long course on vocational crafts for the students of classes 6 or 7 or 8, any one class, which will be as per the student's interest and also which will familiarize the student with the needs of his area. For the parents, it will mean that the children can learn life skills that help them to become more independent. And for the students, it means that they will understand mental health and personal hygiene and effects of drug and alcohol use, and besides learning some vocational experience in some vocational subject. Sorry. For the students, it means getting a hands-on experience on carpentry, electric work, metallurgy, gardening, pottery, etc. The next is very important, which I believe in this post-pandemic world, we really need to emphasize basic training in health and hygiene. Now, this particular document emphasizes the fact that health and hygiene has to be emphasized right from the school level onwards up to the highest level. And for this, it seeks to not only include health and hygiene as a part of the school course contents, but it also believes in providing the support services for students, if possible, so that they can get the basic training in health, including preventive health, mental health, nutrition, personal and public hygiene, and first aid, all of which will be included in the curriculum, as will be the scientific explanations of the detrimental and damaging effects of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Already you have seen that in the media is full about a lot of, drug awareness drives and cleanups that are happening. So we know that these are some social evils which are impacting our young children, and therefore this particular document believes that at the school level itself, we have to train our children so that they understand the importance of health, the importance of hygiene, and so that they understand mental health and personal hygiene and effects of drug and alcohol use. And therefore, for the educators and school promoters, they have to provide basic training in health and first aid. And for parents, it will be a very great help because it will provide for better physical and mental health of their children in school. Next important recommendation is regarding the textbooks and supplementary material. So as per this document, all textbooks shall aim to contain the essential correct material together with discussion or analysis, examples and applications deemed important on a national level. Core material, and but at the same time it will contain any desired nuances and supplementary material as per local context and needs. So what does it mean? It means for educators and school promoters that emphasis is to be made based more on constructivist learning rather than rote learning, which is what we are doing today. So teachers will have choices in the textbooks they employ from among a set of textbooks that contain the requisite national and local material so that they may teach in a manner that is best suited to the achievement of learning outcomes and their students and communities' needs. So therefore now here it is proposing that instead of having one textbook for a particular course, maybe you may have one textbook, but there will be emphasis or choices or references or suggested readings of a number of other textbooks, etc., or reading materials, so that students can look up those materials and improve their learning. This, therefore, will ensure more flexibility for the school curriculum. Next, the importance is on the holistic development of learners. So because the main focus is now more on only core learning and holistic development of learners, curriculum content will be reduced in each subject to its core essentials to make space for critical thinking and more holistic discovery-based, discussion-based, and problem-solving analysis-based learning. Therefore, for educators and school promoters, the content of the courses curriculum should focus on key concepts, ideas, applications, and problem solving. Classroom sessions should be more interactive and students should be encouraged to ask questions. For students, therefore, the classroom sessions will regularly contain more fun and will have a lot of collaborative and exploratory activities. Next, a wide choice of subjects and courses are to be given year to year. Very important suggestion of this particular document is that students have to be introduced to the diversity that is there in our society through a variety of courses every year. Holistic development and a wide choice of subjects and courses year to year will be the new distinguishing feature of secondary school education. And there will be no hard separation among curricular, extracurricular, or co-curricular areas like we have now, among arts, humanities, and sciences, or between vocational streams and other such streams. So this sort of, silos, which I said earlier, these will now be done away with, and we will have just one curriculum, multidisciplinary based, holistic education, providing a wide choice of subjects and a wide variety of courses. So the implications are that physical education, arts, and vocational crafts have to be incorporated throughout the school curriculum, considering what is interesting and safe at each stage. And for the students, it means increased flexibility to choose subjects to study, particularly in the secondary schools, so that they can decide their own paths of study and life plans. Another important thing is the pedagogical and curricular initiatives that are suggested. So, like I said, that the program of action of 1992, which was the final preparation for the implementation of the recommendations of the National Education Plan of 1986. One of the greatest lapses it was found was the fact that it had not included disruptive technology. But now, this particular document wants to train up the students through some concerted curricular and pedagogical initiatives so that contemporary subjects or subjects of the future, such as artificial intelligence, design thinking, holistic health, organic living, all these things can be included at the different stages and in the courses or through some other activities so that the students learn to develop these skills at all levels. So for the educators, it would mean introducing these sort of contemporary subjects such as artificial intelligence, design thinking, etc. And for the students, it would mean learning the 21st century skills, which is so important. Critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, communication, then learning to deal with the changes, uh, understanding climate change, understanding the behavioral changes required to promote the environment, etc. So these are the things that we have to introduce in the school curriculum, in the different courses, through different ways, so that students learn these skills in the school itself. Reduce the weight of school bags and textbooks. So one major defect, and we all know about the Yashpal committee report who had suggested that the school nursery children, how their bags are almost 4 times their, almost 1/4 of their body weight. So that is very sad that they have to carry that huge weight of school bags. And so this particular document has mentioned the need to reduce the weight of school bags and textbooks. And for this, it has suggested that some concerted efforts through suitable changes in curriculum and pedagogy will be made by NCERT, SCERTs, schools and educators to significantly reduce the weight of school bags and textbooks that students are asked to carry to and from school on a daily basis. So implications are that for educators and school promoters, suitable changes in curriculum and pedagogy has to be immediately made to reduce the weight of bags. For parents, it would mean better health of the children, and for students, it would mean reduction in the weight of their school bags. Assessment. Now, any good teaching learning system, whenever we talk about a good education system, it implies teaching, learning, and assessment. And therefore, the third important aspect of the school system or the learning system, which is assessment, this also has a special mention in this document, where the suggestion of this document is that the aim of assessment in the culture of our schooling system will shift from one that primarily tests rote memorization skills, what we are doing now, to one that is more formative, is more competency based, promotes learning and development for our students, and tests higher order skills such as analysis, critical thinking, problem solving, etc. So the implications are that for educators and school promoters, we have to revise our teaching learning processes. We have to define learning outcomes so that we can set questions accordingly at the higher order levels as per Bloom's taxonomy to optimize learning and development for all students. And for parents, it would mean that the learning outcomes of their children are better than the present, where we find that there is a lot of rote learning, memorization, but actual learning is very poor, which is why employers say that your people have very good marks in their grade sheets, but they are not employable because they don't know basic concepts, they don't have basic skills. So it is hoped that when we make our assessments more formative, that is continuous comprehensive evaluation, and here it proposes that the assessment will be done not only by the teacher, it will also be done by their peers, and the third level is by the parents. So there are 3 levels of assessments. Now this is of course a bit utopian, it may not be possible at all levels. However, the idea is that assessment should be formative and not only summative at the end. And whenever we talk about formative assessment, along with the student's assessment by a teacher, it is important that the student is assessed on his other skills, personality skills by his peers and also his parents, his or her parents. So therefore, formative assessments, wholesome, holistic assessments, all-round assessments are what are suggested, along with questions aimed at the higher order thinking skills. Board examinations. So board examinations, I have already mentioned in the very beginning that it is a major source of anxiety for students, and it is a very major source of anxiety for parents also. Often I find that parents lay more stress on it and children therefore get anxious. So the whole idea now is that the board exams will be made easier in the sense that they will test primarily the core capacities rather than months of coaching and memorization. And any student who has been regularly attending and making a basic effort in a school class will be able to pass the corresponding subject board exam without any additional effort. So the implications, it would mean that for educators, it will eliminate the high stakes aspect of board exams and conduct exams to encourage holistic development. So right now we have the high stakes exams, so that will be replaced by holistic development exams. For parents, the scope of improvement in the performance of their children in board exams will have 2 parts, objective type and multiple choice questions as well as descriptive. So the examination will be, the question paper will have options where they will have objective type, where they will have short answer type, and they will have long answer type questions also, so as to cater to the all-round learning and so as to test the higher order thinking skills of the students. So therefore the learning will be better, it is hoped, and the parents will therefore see improvement and performance in their children. And for the students, they will have the flexibility to choose in many of the subjects in which they take board exams depending on their own interests. So it is not something that is forced. So whatever they like. So just because you are studying science and you don't like maths, you don't have to take maths. If you like history, you can take history, and then also you may appear for the exam. So therefore, students will enjoy the examination rather than get more stressed. Also, the state school examinations that will be held at grade 3, 5 and 8, in addition to the board examination in grades 10 and 12, these are some of the other examinations that in grade 3 means when they first enter the from foundational to the preparatory stage. In class 5, when they complete preparatory stage and they are going to enter the middle school stage, and then the in class 8 when they are going for the higher education in the secondary stage. Again, these examinations would test achievement of learning outcomes through assessment of core concepts and knowledge from the national and local curricula, along with relevant higher order skills and application of knowledge in real life situations rather than rote memorization. And the implications here would mean that class 3 exams will test basic FLN, literacy, numeracy, and foundational skills. Then these results will be used to disclose overall student outcomes and for continuous monitoring and improvement of the schooling system. So it is just supposed to be a monitoring system to find out whether the learning outcomes designed in the courses are being fulfilled and whether the competency of the learners are improving. And for the students, it would mean for the parents, it would help track the students' progress throughout their schooling. This will be by the state school examination boards or the local examination boards. Clubs and circles. Now, in order to make our students more environment conscious and also to promote creativity and performing arts, which are very essential for the holistic development in a student, clubs and circles are to be promoted in the school level. So topic-centered and project-based clubs and circles will be highly encouraged and supported at the levels of schools, school complexes, districts, and beyond. So it can be science clubs or science circles, math circles, music performance circles, chess circles, drama, debate, so on. The funds will be made available for the transportation of teachers to take their students to these circles or clubs when they are not meeting at their own school. So here there is also the concept of clusters, school clusters. So if you have a particular science circle in a particular school cluster, then the movement of students between schools should not be a hindrance, and funds should be available for the transportation of the students to these clubs and circles. Implications is that for the educators, we have to encourage students with singular interests, like maybe chess player or a drama or a debate in, artist or an artist or a singer or a dancer, by giving them supplementary enrichment material and guidance and recommend them to appropriate summer programs. And for the students, it would mean high quality national residential summer programs for secondary school students across the country. Olympiads and competitions. So as you all know, these are still there, of course, even in the present system. But here it is emphasized that they will be strengthened across the country with clear coordination and progression from school to local, from local to state, from state to national levels with the necessary funding. So the funding will be provided now to ensure that all students may participate at all levels for which they qualify. Efforts will be made to make available Olympiads even in the rural areas and in regional languages to ensure widespread uh, publicity. So implications are that widespread participation of students are to be ensured by educators and school promoters in Olympiads and competitions in various subjects across the state and across the nation. And for students, it would mean that the results from regional, national, and international Olympiads, as well as results from and work in regional and national topic-based programs, will be made a part of the criteria for admissions into undergraduate programs. That means if a student has this sort of achievements in his or her school assessment records, then they will be given preference to undergraduate programs even in premier institutions like the IITs and the IIMs. So the main idea is therefore that what we earlier used to call as co-curricular programs, these are now going to be included as a part of the school records, formative record system. And therefore, participation in regional, national, and international Olympiads will ensure that their admission, even at the higher education level, is assured in good institution, good and premier institution. Use of technology in learning. So because of the pandemic, we have all learned our lessons. But this particular document had already said that increasingly we have to shift to more and more use of technology in learning. But it has recognized the fact that in India, there is still a huge percentage of people. So recently we have had a lot of surveys, and CERT also carried out a survey recently where we have seen that more than 1/3 of the people are as yet not having smartphones. Just I think day before yesterday, a young girl committed suicide because her father could not buy a smartphone for her to attend online classes. And we have also seen that video of a young girl fighting to save her smartphone. Why? Because her father had struggled very hard to buy her the phone so that she could continue her education during this pandemic. So internet connected smartphones or tablets have to be available in all homes and schools. That is the future towards which we are going. Already we have seen that data has been made quite cheap, and the access has also improved. Of course, infrastructural requirements are not adequate as of now in most places, but work is going on. As we all know, the fiber optic lines are being laid, and in the future, very soon by 2025, it is hoped that even the remotest areas will be having access to internet, so that we can have online communities for shared interests to work, not only for other initiatives but also as groups. So implications are that smart classrooms in a phased manner are going to be developed for using digital pedagogy, online resources and collaborations, and even maybe for assessments in the future. And for students, it would mean enhanced teaching learning process. Multilingualism. So as you are all aware, this particular document has come in for some criticism, especially in the southern states, regarding the imposition of the three-language system. But actually, this is not something new. The three-language system has been there ever since the Kothari Commission of 1964-66. So therefore, the whole idea is that we recognize the fact that India is a very diverse state which has multiple languages. And therefore, even based on research, we all know that medium of instruction at the lower levels, at least up to class 5 at least, that is up to 10 years, it should preferably be in the mother tongue or the regional language or the local language or the home language. Because instead of spending their energies on trying to learn a new language, that energy can be spent in learning the contents of the more important subject areas. So it is said that foundational education should be in the mother tongue or the local language, and preferably at least up to the foundational, up to the preparatory stage, that is up to class 5, 3, 4, 5. But they have also mentioned that if possible, if it can be retained till grade 8, where both the local language and a little bit of English will also be continued, then it is preferable. But however, at least up till 10 years of age, it is, or at least up to class 5, the medium of instruction should be in the mother tongue of the student. Thereafter, the home language or local language shall continue to be taught to be taught as a language wherever possible by both public and private schools. So the implications are that it will be very difficult to prepare bilingual teaching learning materials and hire teachers fluent in mother tongue and local languages. Of course, this is a major challenge. So this is a down point, if you notice. So it is going to be a bit difficult. For parents also, they will lose their right to choose the medium of instruction for their child's education. And for students also, they will be forced to learn all subjects in a new language that they are not familiar with when they shift to a new part of another or move to another part of the country. So for those who are in transferable jobs, the children of parents who are in transferable jobs, this is going to be a bit cumbersome. So this suggestion is coming in for a lot of criticism and a lot of flack. But most of the states have set up committees to look into the different dimensions of this document, and it is hoped that the committees with the experts will be able to find a way out. But in the future, language teachers will be of great demand, language teachers and teaching. There will be a major effort from both the central and state governments to invest in large numbers of language teachers in all regional languages around the country. And states, especially from different regions of India, may enter bilateral agreements to hire teachers in large numbers from each other to satisfy the three language formula. This is a suggestion. And the implications are that teaching languages is an enjoyable and interactive style. In an enjoyable and interactive style with plenty of interactive conversation, early reading and subsequently writing exercises, etc., are interesting and be very enjoyable also. And therefore, the language learning should be experiential and enhanced through art, music, poetry, and theatre. For parents, it will be an icebreaker for children when they meet people from other parts of India. And for students, they would learn more languages, and along with learning different languages, they will also learn about the rich literature of a particular state and the cultural heredity of our nation, diversity and the richness of our nation. Emphasis is therefore more on bilingualism. So students whose medium of instruction is the local or home language will begin to learn science and mathematics bilingually from grade 6 onwards, so that by the end of grade 9, they can speak about science and other subjects both in their home language and English. So therefore, for the educators and school promoters, the task ahead is to prepare very high quality bilingual textbooks and teaching learning materials. For students, it would mean engaging sessions of reading and analyzing literature by reading from all walks of life. And last is the Indian Sign Language that will be standardized across the country, keeping in mind the special needs of the Divyang. And the national and state curriculum materials will be developed for use by students with hearing impairment. Local sign languages will be respected and taught as well. So what it means is that educators and school promoters now will have to learn Indian Sign Language and local sign language in order to teach this. For parents, it would be a very welcome move because it would mean a more inclusive school and a society at large. And for students, it would mean more inclusive school and a society at large. Therefore, to conclude this entire school education, if you see that there are lots of areas in which this particular document has made major recommendations. The first being universalization of education from the existing 56% to 100%. Secondly, to bring 2 crore out-of-school children back into the mainstream through open schooling system. 10+2 system of schools to be replaced by the 5+3+3+4 curricular structure. Then class 10 and 12 board examinations to be made easier so that students may be allowed to take the exam twice. School governance is set to change with a new accreditation framework and an independent authority to regulate both public and private schools. Emphasis on foundational literacy and numeracy at the foundation level. No rigid separation between academic streams, extracurricular, co-curricular, vocational academic streams in schools. Vocational education to start from class 6 onwards with internships. I had mentioned this. Teaching up to at least grade 5 to be in mother tongue or the regional language. No language will be imposed on any student. Assessment reforms are going to be 360-degree holistic progress card to track the students' progress for achieving learning outcomes. So I told you it is going to be a real formative assessment with 360-degree holistic progress card, and the new and comprehensive national curriculum framework for teacher education 2021 will be formulated by NCT very soon, and by 2030 the minimum degree qualification for teaching will be a 4-year integrated BEd degree. So therefore we can say that transformational reforms have been suggested in the education system, starting with the universal access from 3 years to 18 years, 15 to 16 years of compulsory schooling. Emphasis for the first time on early childhood care and education, something that I hold very dear. 3 to 6 years, a very neglected group of children, at very important developmental age, replacing the existing structure of so long with a new different structure. The national mission on foundational literacy and numeracy is going to be designed. Multilingualism is going to be emphasized. Exams are going to be reformed into 2 board exams to test core capabilities. A new national assessment center, PARAK, performance assessment, review and analysis for of knowledge for holistic learning. So this is the NIPARAK, the new National Assessment Center. This is the new type of assessment of students pan-India. NTA will be conducting exams for colleges admission, equitable and inclusive education, teacher recruitment and career path, and vocational education. By 2025, at least 50% students should have exposure to vocational education. So therefore, among other things, NEP 2020 suggests a slew of reforms to school education with a focus on flexibility of subjects and eliminating silos between streams of learning. It aims to reduce the curriculum content to its core essentials, focusing only on the key concepts and ideas in order that children are able to practice more critical thinking and, among other things, more analysis-based learning. In fact, children will also be given increased flexibility in the choices of subjects they wish to pursue in the secondary stage. This NEP states that there will be no hard separation between the different streams, there will be no silos, and during the grades 6 to 8, students will be required to take a course which will provide a hands-on experience on a number of important vocational crafts as well. To sum it all up, it seems to me that this particular document has tried to ensure quality in the document, quality in the education at school level by subscribing to the 6 tenets of quality education. The first tenet is that at the end of school education, students should be college and career ready. The tenet 2 is the assessment should be accurate, it should be objective, and it should be holistic assessment. Third tenet is the positive partnerships, relationships, and student success. That society, parents, peers, students, administration, there is a very important need to integrate these relationships and foster these positive relationships to ensure students' progress and success. This also is a very important tenet of quality education. The fourth tenet is educator effectiveness. So, for school education, therefore, the training of teachers that has been mentioned and detailed in this document, it takes care of even this particular tenet because it wants to bring out a type of teachers who are devoted to the profession of teaching. Tenet 5 is transitions. Transitions meaning that the transition from school to college or from one level to another level should always be very smooth. Students should not feel the pain of transition. So this is another tenet that has been taken care of. And lastly, educational opportunities and access. So we have noticed that vocational education, internships, etc., that are provided at the middle school and high school stage, these are some means through which the school curriculum wants to provide educational opportunities. Sorry, this is educational opportunities and access, meaning inclusion and equitable access to all. So these are some of the important things that we find. The 6 tenets of quality are there in this document, and therefore we can say that this document is therefore designed for promoting quality in education. So the way forward is that we have to facilitate an inclusive, participatory, and holistic approach which takes into consideration field experiences, empirical research, stakeholder feedback, as well as lessons learned from best practices. That is why the need to have a continuous review of the education process. Accreditation also may be required. Policy aims at producing engaged, productive, and contributing citizens for building an equitable, inclusive, and plural society as envisaged by our Constitution. And this particular education document is very clear that it is making a progressive shift towards a more scientific approach to education. The prescribed structure will help to cater to the ability of the child, stages of cognitive development, as well as social and physical awareness. If implemented in its true form, in its true vision, the new structure can bring India at par with the best in the world. Thank you. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation today. It has been a slightly lengthy presentation, I know, but I hope I have been able to address some of the issues of school education. I have prepared the slides keeping in mind the different perspectives of the school educator, the teacher, the administrator, as well as the parents, as well as the students. I hope I have been able to do justice to the presentation, and I hope you have benefited somewhat from this 1.5 hour presentation that I have made in front of you. I would like to thank everyone once again for having invited me to this, to be the resource person of this webinar, and I'm very encouraged to see that there is such a huge participation. And like Jayanta Kolita said, that participation not only from outside Assam, but outside the country. So thank you so much for being here today. And thank you once again, Pranita, for inviting me to this webinar. I hope I have been able to answer some of the queries. And if you have any queries, maybe I can pick up a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam, for your nice deliberation. And definitely, I believe all the participants have benefited from your deliberation. And I have seen in the chat box that the participants have putting their appreciating message, mass messages in the chat box. Very beautifully they say. So thank you once again, madam. Now it's the time of interaction. So I request all the participants to raise their hand so that we can allow you to unmute yourself. And some participants may ask their query in the chat box. We will collect it from the chat box and put forward to our resource person. So please, if any participants wants to put their query directly, then I request you to raise your hand so that we allow you to unmute yourself. Please, Pranita, I request you also to collect questions from the chat box.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening to all. Myself, Birensi Bora from Dikboy. I would like to ask ma'am that provide some more information about performing arts in regard to school education as well as college as well as university. How will performing arts will enact in the NEP 2020? Thank you so much.
Regarding the school education, actually, performing arts is supposed to be integrated in the school program. Let me just give you an example. From my own life, my daughter, when she was studying in school, once they were given a project in social science. So usually the projects are done in groups, and usually they make posters and etc. And that is how most of them did. But their group had an interesting idea, and they decided to perform it. And they performed it with a thing, using music and a theatrical performance. And it turned out to be so good that the social science teacher later on another day invited the principal and asked him to see this. So now that is one way of, finding out how to integrate performing arts in education. So in social sciences, in certain topics, you can take the help of it is not like a separate subject as such, apart from those clubs and circles, etc. But in the teaching learning processes, experiential learning, when we are talking about experiential learning, then these are some ways through which you can use their creativity and their talents in transacting a school curriculum. That is one. But in the undergraduate level in higher education, of course, now when we are offering choice-based credit system, we are providing options for generic electives. So in the generic elective courses, students from a particular discipline can take a subject of his or her choice in a completely different department or center. So suppose someone is studying history but is interested in performing arts, can take up a course in the second and third semester in the performing arts center. So like that also you can give the scope. In the school level, the whole idea is mostly experiential learning and giving them a chance to pursue their creativity.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
It was indeed a very enlightening session. And my question to you is, ma'am, you told about the experiential learning in school, but the strength is so high. How can we practice that in school? Like,
oh, that is true. Yeah, please continue.
So we have the strength of like 85, 86 students in a class. So how will we be able to practice this experiential learning? That is one thing. Another question, ma'am, it is about the primary level teaching in mother tongue. So suppose a child is not from his hometown, but his father is transferred to some other state and the child
Yeah.
is going to study there. So how
Yes,
that going, we are going to address that?
that is a major problem that I have already mentioned. That is why this is becoming an issue. So now the various committees have been set up by the different states. So
Ah,
maybe in the so maybe in the Kendriya Vidyalayas and in the English medium schools, uh, I think the earlier, I mean, I have been a product of a school where we had English medium, but from class one onwards, we studied our regional mother tongue. I took my mother tongue, and for 5, 6, 7, 8, we had a third language, which works quite well actually. So maybe that sort of a compromise formula might have to be uh, thought about, because this problem is genuine, especially for children of parents who are in transferable jobs. Secondly, regarding your first question about experiential learning, definitely whatever suggestions are given are not given for a classroom with 70, 80 students. Ideally, the number is 1 is to 25 to 30. We all know that in the primary education, it should not be more than 30. So the whole emphasis now, therefore, is on more and more of teacher training and teacher appointment. So this document does stress a lot on increased teacher appointment and also training of teachers. And this training is not only that one-time training, but a continuous faculty development program that takes place from time to time. So it is hoped that experiential learning, even if not in the lower classes, but at least at the higher classes, 6, 7, 8, we should try. And the number of students have to be reduced to a manageable size, at least half of the existing number that you are dealing with. Otherwise, you cannot do experiential learning. That's true.
Thank you, madam. There's a question in the chat box by Sekhar Jyoti. Madam, please give some ideas how maximum involvement of the parents in their children's development can be done, especially those who are not literate enough in remote areas.
So nowadays, you have the school management committees now. Even in the remote areas nowadays, it's a very cooperative process. So you have school management committees where the guardians are represented. You have PTAs, and it is a fact that there are many parents who are illiterate or are not very interested in their school children's education. But then that is a part of our society, because we know we need a lot of students who are first generation learners. However, already in the existing system, we do have these school management committees, and even in the foundational courses in the Anganwadi, which is presently carrying on the primary education in the disadvantaged areas. The Anganwadi centers, the workers, they are the ones who are coordinating between the parents of those children, and they are educating not only the children in the Anganwadis, but also they are educating the parents on basic hygiene, nutrition, and also about how they need to be involved in the children's school education, etc. So this is going to be a long process, but definitely already in our system we have seen that SMCs are already there in place, and PTAs are also emphasized, and so these are the ways through which we have to reach the parents, and we have to ensure that even if they are not literate, that they are encouraged to ensure that their children come to school. There are many who may not be even interested in sending, but we must ensure that they send their children to school.
Thank you, madam. Pranita, any question from your side?
Madam,
Yes.
one question from YouTube Live. The question arises, how can NEP help special students of special needs?
Actually, there are lots of recommendations. It became so long, so
Yeah.
therefore I could not actually deal with everything. Yeah. But regarding the disadvantaged groups, they have, specially focused, whereby they have said, they will have certain special educational zones also, based on the needs of the particular thing. So, to ensure equity, they have special education zones. They will have, interventions for the socio-economically disadvantaged groups, special mechanisms for children belonging to tribal groups. Then, the different special training of teachers for the special children. Uh, so, they have supporting children with special needs, regular schooling. Um, then modules are going to be developed by a National Institute of Open Schooling. Certificate courses will be provided for pre-service and in-service teachers to become special educators. Enabling mechanisms are being designed for children with special needs to receive quality education, assistive devices and orientation to parents. So parents are now being, made aware and sensitized, and also technology enabled assistive devices. If you notice, I had talked about the sign language. There also they are talking about using technology. So the whole idea is for the Divyang, they are going to have certain assistive devices. And for this, even parents will have to be sensitized and oriented on how to use these devices. So these are the tools and devices that will be given to the parents and caregivers so that they can help in the education of the children with special needs. And alternative forms of schools also will be encouraged to preserve the alternative pedagogical styles. So although we talk about including them in the regular schools, but often it is seen that when children of the same type are in a special school, they learn, grow faster, and they enjoy learning. So that also provision will be kept by having alternate schools for this. So lots of suggestions are given for supporting children with special needs.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Another question is that who will benefited by NEP? Teacher or students? Who will benefited by NEP, new education policy? Teacher or students?
The answer is quite clear. I think the person who has asked it also knows the answer. I'm sure we all have agreed that it is the learner.
Is Tejaswini More from YouTube, from I collected this.
Yeah. So yes, definitely the student, because today you see the students don't enjoy going to school. They don't enjoy learning in school. They enjoy school because of other reasons, because of their friends, etc. But they don't enjoy learning. But if you go to the changes envisaged in this document, in the curriculum, in the pedagogical structures, where children will become more involved, learning will be more hands-on, more experiential, I'm sure they will enjoy and then they will love to learn. Because, one important thing we have to keep in mind in the 21st century, we have to learn to unlearn also a lot of things and relearn. So right now, there are many children who have learned a lot of things which may be wrong or right. And therefore, first we have to make them unlearn those things and teach them to come to the right learning. So for that, for the teachers also, it is going to be a challenge. And therefore, knowing the impact of social media, internet, and all the mass media, we all know that students are already very well informed. But that information has to be translated into knowledge and wisdom that they don't have, that you and I, due to our experience and training we have. So it is our role to guide and train them so that they can translate their information into knowledge and understanding, without which they cannot transform their lives. So both for the teacher as well as the student, I think it's beneficial.
Thank you, ma'am. So, some other questions are already covered by your deliberation. Your presentation has covered all the
Someone has asked about what about the board examination 21-22. 21-22, we won't have it. Don't worry. The implementation will be, there is a timeline. I can give you the timeline also. So for the new assessment pattern, that will come, the new board examination will be coming in class 12 only in 2025. So you don't have to worry that up to 24-25 they are not even going to start. So they are first targeting class 9 in 21-22 in phase 1, and then 22-23 class 10, 23-24 class 11, 24-25 class 12. So initially the first emphasis is on class 9. However, if you look at the foundational stages, you will find that 2021 they are going to initiate 1 year of pre-primary school education, which is carried on in the Anganwadi. So they are not going for the 5-year program at one go. They are going for 1 year. Then 2 years later, they will expand it from 1 year to the 3-year pre-primary education. And for this, the Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Education, and Social Empowerment, all of these ministries are going to get together and design the program. So at the foundational level, the major changes that are being suggested, it will take time. But immediately from 9 onwards, from next year, they are going to start with class 9 or the secondary stage. So therefore, if you have children in class 8, you can prepare for 21-22 class 9, because the changes will begin from then. And it is already the curriculum is being prepared. It is supposed to be out by early 2021. So once we have the curriculum, then it will become much more easier for us to plan the educational roadmap.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I am Mr. Pingrove from Shillong. So
Yeah,
I would like to get some idea from you, like how schools and teachers can promote multilingualism from an early stage for learners.
no, actually, as per this document, they have suggested that up to class 5, there should be only one language.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
from 5, 6 onwards, they are suggesting that another language should be brought about. They have said mostly English.
Yes, yes.
So basically, the question is, as per this document, they are saying that at least 2 languages should be there by class 6, 7. But
Right.
like I said, that when we were in school, we did 6, 7, 8. We did third language. So that can be done, because if you have noticed, classes 6, 7, and 8 is a very it's a very 3-year fun-based learning stage. 1 year is on fun only. It's more of practical. So therefore, maybe another language can be taught in class 6.
Right,
But
ma'am.
science and mathematics has to be taught in English, preferably from class 6, they have said. So that bilingual books, therefore, have to be designed for class 6, 7, 8 onwards. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Lots
Due
of
to time
questions.
limitation, due to time limitation, so we cannot continue this session.
I would
Question answer session.
love to answer, but then
Yes, yes.
yeah,
There
time
is a
limitation. Lots
yes,
of
yes.
questions.
You have already
Thank you
addressed.
all for such a interactive, session, and for the wonderful comments. I'm feeling very enthused, and I'm feeling very humbled by your, comments. I'm very glad that I could be of some help today. Thank you, Pranita. Thank you, Joyita.
Thank you, madam. You have already addressed the many questions. We are extremely sorry, the participants. We are extremely sorry that we are unable to continue this question and answer session due to time limitations. We apologize for that. And as per agenda, now it is vote of thanks. Before going to vote of thanks, I would like to request Nita ma'am to put your concluding remarks, please.
What can I say? Like I said, I'm truly humbled by such wonderful appreciation from the participants about my presentation. It is very encouraging to see people so interested in a subject which is going to impact us all. Although we may not be teaching in the school, but we may have a child, or we may have someone we know in school, and we would like to be involved in their developmental processes. So if you know what are the changes envisaged, and if you know what are the things that need to be done by the educational institutions, then as parents, as guardians also, you can make some helpful suggestions to the school authorities, to the teachers, so that the basic principles of this document are addressed, and the vision of this document is realized. Uh, I particularly believe that, that for me, education has always been a learning process. For me, I learn from everything. And I always have believed that the illiterate of the 21st century is not the person who cannot read or write, but the person who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And therefore, today in this 21st century, it has become especially more important that we need to skill ourselves, upskill ourselves, reskill ourselves also at times, and constantly endeavor to, make ourselves better than we were yesterday. I wish you all the very best in your journey ahead. You have a long road ahead of you, but once you know the milestones, the journey becomes easier. So today I only sought to give you the milestones, and I hope the journey will now become a bit more clearer. The fogs have, been removed, and I hope you will have a very successful journey, and you will have a fruitful life ahead of you, and do justice to whatever profession you are in, and justice as a person to our society. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your nice words. Punitya, would you like to say something before going to vote of thanks?
I want to thank Madam for in a short duration of time he gave me the consent to take part in this webinar within one day. It is prepared, so very thankful for this his consent. And I want to thank all the organizing committee, Janta Kolita sir, technical person Arnav Setia, principals of Sonari College, Dr. Bimal Chandra Gogoi sir, and Mazbat College, Pradeep Kumar Sharma sir, and all other faculties of both the college, Sonari College and Mazbat College, for their cooperation and encouragement. So I thank all the participants also. They make this session fruitful and lively. Thank you. Jonto Kulta sir, you can proceed for the votes of thanks session.
Thank you, Pranita. Good evening to all. Respected principals of both the colleges, honorable resource person, and all the esteemed participants joining from different parts of the India and abroad. At the outset, on behalf of the organizing committee, I, Sri Jayanto Kolita, Joint Coordinator of this webinar, I would like to take this opportunity to convey my heartfelt thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar. I offer my gratitude to Dr. Pradeep Kumar Sharma sir, Principal Mazbat College, and Dr. Bimal Chandra Gogoi sir, Principal Sonari College, for giving us permission to arrange this webinar. It is our pleasure to host all about 2,000 esteemed participants and dignitaries of this national webinar, join across the globe and interact on the topic. Only because of your participation, this webinar become a grand success. Thank you all for your cooperation. Next, I would like to offer my sincere gratitude to my teacher and today's resource person, Dr. Nita from Dibrugarh University. Ma'am, we are really grateful to you that in spite of your busy schedule, you accepted our invitation and enlightened us with your vast experiences and valuable as well as very informative speech on this vital topic. I believe all the participants, including us, having benefited a lot from your deliberation. We hope we will meet again in future discourses. I wishing you good health and peace without end. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Next, a vote of thanks goes to Miss Pubali Fukon, who have started our session with a Bhupendra Sangit with her melodious voice. Thank you, Pubali. I am very much thankful to Mr. Rajiv Kumar Kotoki, sir, SOD Education, Sonari College, and Mr. Jyoti Prasad Fukon, Coordinator IQAC of Sonari College, for your guidance and support. I am also thankful to all the faculty members of both the colleges who have been doing a lot to make this webinar a grand success. I also take this opportunity to thank Mr. Arunab Setia from Dibrugarh University, who have been sincerely controlling the technical side till now. Thank you, Arunab. At last but not least, I would like to offer my sincere thanks to Dr. Pranita Kolita, Joint Coordinator of this webinar, for her continuous effort to make this webinar grand success. With these warm words, I have concluded the part of vote of thanks and officially declared that today's webinar is ended.